everybody, welcome back. My name is Catherine Hubert. I am determined and on a mission to change the way that our world both views and employs people with disabilities. I am practicing that firsthand here at my restaurant, Chez, which is located in Greensboro, North Carolina. We're a small French-inspired cafe. We're downtown. Over half of our staff are disabled adults. We've been open for almost 5 years, and we're so excited to be here with you today. You can see the restaurant space kind of behind me, and we are continuing our conversation around the different models of disability. So there are 3 models of disability: the medical, the social, and then moral. We've talked about medical and social. There's a couple key differentiations between those 2 models. One being the medical, placing more responsibility for the disability onto the disabled human, versus the social model, which places more of the responsibility for disability onto the society or community. And then there's the moral model, which I think is a sneaky model. The other 2, I feel like there are threads and themes that you probably are like, yeah, that makes sense, or I could see that, especially with the medical model being very diagnosis heavy and very solution focused. The social model being a little bit more nuanced and not as prevalent in our society today, but is the model that we most closely identify with here at the restaurant. And then the moral model, I think, is the sneaky one that probably has informed a decent amount of disability bias that we hold and operate under, and oftentimes with the pretense or the understanding that it's the preferred or a feel-good option for viewing or considering disability. So we're going to kind of pick that apart a little bit today. Essentially, the moral model stems from kind of an older historic view of disability, which is this idea of suffering and hardship and disability being something that is attached to a sense of morality, a sense of right and wrong. So someone who's lived their life in a way that's not maybe socially smiled upon, or parents who have done wrong within their family line and then have kids with a disability, like viewing disability as some sort potentially of punishment or repercussion for wrongdoings done in your life or in other people's lives that are in your family line. So that's kind of one element of the moral model. That, I think, is starting to dissipate more and more as time and history has progressed. But the other side of the moral model is seeing disability as an opportunity to overcome, to shine, to rise above, to inspire, to motivate. There's still this attached concept of morals and this being like disability almost being a cause or a stance to take to provide meaning in the world. So it's kind of like, I've been given this responsibility, whether that's viewed as a burden or sometimes that's viewed as a gift. Either way, there's still this idea of like external outreach through the means of disability. And that's where what I see prevalently, this idea of like enticing others through inspiration, and allowing especially non-disabled humans to feel inspired or motivated by disabled humans. That, I think, gets really dicey really quickly and is unfair to a person with a disability. This is where a lot of ableism and ableistic thinking comes into play, which we'll touch on more in the future. But this idea that a person with a disability is serving the greater good, providing meaning, inspiration, motivation to someone without a disability. Again, pointing back to these themes of like, oh, but look what you've overcome. Look at how you've been dedicated. Look how you've pushed through. Look how you've won a medal, gotten the job, won the competition, whatever it may be. And that being highly esteemed or kind of thought about in like an extra worldly way, but specifically with the intent, and this, you see this in marketing a lot of times, of inspiring or encouraging non-disabled humans through the experiences of a disabled human. This is something that a lot of times, the reason I say it's sneaky is because it is designed to make you feel good. So when you feel good about it, it doesn't immediately raise the flag of like, there may be something actually inherently flawed with this system or with this structure, right? Like, I feel warm and fuzzy. I feel so good. I feel so inspired. I feel so motivated. I feel so challenged. I feel so encouraged, whatever it is. The emotion that comes behind it. Because we're feeling those warm and fuzzies, we may not be stopping to think about who is being exploited or used in the process of us feeling good, and what truly is the motive behind that motivation, and what is it pushing us towards. I'm definitely an advocate in general for us, like humans, learning from each other. So I'm not trying to discourage listening to and learning from other people's experiences. But there's a difference between listening to someone's story and being able to find points of relatability and identifiers, empathy, etc. And then be like, oh, I just feel so good because someone with a disability got a job, or I just feel so good because someone with a disability, ran a race, or whatever it may be. There's room for inspirational stories and learning and listening to other people without falling into the trap or way of thinking that a person with a disability owes a non-disabled person their story so that the non-disabled person can find meaning and purpose and inspiration. It's obviously up to anyone with a disability if they want to disclose that, if they want to talk about it, if they want to talk about it, how they want to talk about it, how do you want to tell your story. That can be very individualized. But, and this is where I recognize I can fall into the trap or the bias that disabled humans are here or around me to teach me something. And that's not their responsibility. It's not their job. I want to have a posture of openness and understanding to listen and to engage and to know more, but I don't want to cross that line of well, now I'm entitled to your story for my own personal gain. Even if that's just emotional gain, we're still then profiting off of someone else's experience and story. And I think it's one thing if a person with a disability stands up and tells their story for the sake of inspiring or motivating an audience or a group of people. Again, that's their story. They get to tell it however they want to. They have the right to invoke whatever feelings they want to from the people who are listening. That, check. Absolutely. But a lot of times through media, through marketing, we see disabled humans used to target or draw in non-disabled humans into whatever's being sold, whether that's a message, whether that's a business, etc. So that's something that I think we're still learning here, but try to be really careful and mindful of, that we're not blasting our team's stories online, that we're not doing a before and after. This was this person's experience before they worked at Chez and their experience after they worked at Chez. We're not using pictures or personal moments from the restaurant to try to sell a product. If you see us doing any of those things, please call us out on it, because I don't want us to be, that's not who I want us to be. But that's really important to me, is that we're not leveraging that feel good or inspiration, or by eating here, you're making a difference, like that kind of methodology into our business model. It much more has to do with, I want to be a place where all people can feel welcomed and where all people belong and are seen and celebrated. There also happens to be a focus of disability employment woven throughout that. It's not specific to it. There's like deeper underlying principles that we're operating off of. I just encourage you and myself to continue to be aware of the marketing and the media that we're absorbing, especially around disabilities and culture. And then next week, what we're planning to do is have our team watch a movie. I think what was voted on was the Peanut Butter Falcon. We did a little poll on our Instagram. So watching a movie where one of the central characters has a disability, and actually watching it through the lens of these different models and then reacting to it. So would love for you to join us for that. That'll be next week. If there's another movie, show, whatever that you think would be fun for us to react to as well, if you want to put that in the comments below, that would be amazing. But the intent behind that is not to slam anyone, to not be disrespectful. The intent is to more so show some examples of, like, this is where something is respectful and done with, integrity and empathy. Here's an example of where someone may be being used or exploited. Here's an example of harmful or biased opinions and messaging, so that we can start to pick up on those things more rapidly as we observe them in our culture, and again start to tease out or break away some of that bias. So that's it. Medical, moral, social, those are the three models. I'm sure we will have future conversations about all of them, because there's a lot that can be unpacked in each of them. But if you have questions, comments, drop them below. If you like our content, then like the video and also subscribe. It would be amazing. We will see you all next week.